So, while this is not set equal to y, so we're not going to graph it on an xy axis, we are still looking for values that make the statement true. So the first thing that you do in all of these cases is make 0 what it's less than or greater than or equal to. So we're going to say, if we're going to do the chart, we're going to do x squared plus x minus 6 less than or equal to 0. So set equal to 0, or whatever the inequality is. I'm saying set it equal to 0, but you might want to, you've got an inequality in this problem. The second step that you're going to do, no matter which of these cases that you use, is that you're going to factor. You're looking for the zeros. Okay? So factor or find the zeros. This is consistent in all three of these cases. So what you get here is you're going to get x plus 3 and x minus 2. We're just going to make this an inequality. Well, we're going to make this an equality at this point. We're going to come back to that inequality at the end, but we're just going to set it equal to 0. That tells me that my zeros are x is equal to and x is equal to. Okay. So if we're going to do a chart, what we're going to do is do an XY chart. And we're going to alternate our values, and please make sure that you put them numerically correct. Don't put 2 to the left of negative 3, because that's not going to make any sense with your answer. We're leaving spaces in between those zeros. Okay? Okay. Now we're going to, in this case, for the chart, we're going to substitute. So for the chart method, we're going to do some substitution. Obviously, if x is negative 3, what are we going to get as an answer if we substitute? Nah, you shouldn't have to think about this. These are called the what? So if you plug in negative 3, what are you going to get? Okay. This should be 0, and this should be 0. You will when I'm done. So we are looking at some options. We're looking for values of x that when we substitute them are going to be, in this equation right here, are going to give us basically negative values. So our options are going to fall between the zeros. If you think of an inequality, remember, we're not graphing this really. So we're either going to look between negative 3 and 2 to find all those values, or we'll look to the right of 2 and to the left of negative 3. So the reason we left spaces is we're going to use some test points. And we're going to pick a test point that falls in between negative 3 and 2. What's the perfect one to use? I'd use 0. If you could use 0 as a test point, that's a really easy value to use. We're going to use a value to the right of 2. Any value works. The smaller it is, the easier it is to work with, so maybe 3. 4 works, 5 works. And we would want to use a value to the left of negative 3. Okay. You can use negative 10. And so then we're going to do some substitution. We're going to let x equals 0, and we're going to substitute it into this quadratic right here. So we want to come back right here. This is what we got to look at. Okay? So if x is equal to 0, well, then I'm going to get 0 plus 0 minus 6. Is that less than or equal to 0? In other words, is negative 6 less than or equal to 0? Yeah. All right. I'm liking that. I'm going to put a check mark here. That's good. Okay. Yeah, I know. You can put negative 6 down here if you want, but what I'm saying is I like that. Okay? Now we're going to let x be negative 4. Now we're going to substitute it. We're going to get 16 minus 4 minus 10. Is that less than or equal to 0? You're going to get 2, aren't you? Oh, no, it's minus 4 minus 6. I wrote this down wrong. So it's 6. So is 6 less than or equal to 0? I don't like that. Oops, is that the wrong one? No.
Wait, don't you know that it just can be in between?
No, you don't know. Okay. All right, then the last one that we have to try is what? And so if x is equal to 3, I'm going to get 9 plus 3 minus 6. Is that less than or equal to 0? No. So on a number line, what this would look like is that between negative 3 and 2 are the values that I want, correct? And what kind of a point would I put at negative 3 and 2? Open or solid? Solid because of the equality. So if we were to then put that as an inequality statement, would this be an and statement or an or statement? What does that look like? Does it look like oars in the water? Does it go out? So it's an and statement, isn't it? Oars in the water. You know, if you're doing a boat, you got oars in the water. Oars in the water go out. Oars. The oars. All right. So then this answer is that x falls between and includes 2 and negative 3. Remember, I'm not looking for a graph. Graphing might help. We are looking for numbers that will satisfy this inequality. Okay? So that's the chart method. Okay? The graphing method. 3 different methods. All are going to give you the same answer. What? You didn't get that part of the homework. You're going to finish it tonight, Emma. Graphing method. What are our zeros? Negative 3, solid. 2, solid. I'd put open intervals here if this was just less than or greater than, okay? In our mind, is this a parabola? I know it's not set equal to y, but let's say we did, because we know that this is a quadratic. Would this be a parabola that would open up or down through those? Okay. Now, look at me. I'm making this wide. I don't want it to go, the parabola to go straight up. I want up and up.
Wait, how do you know the vertex is there?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for this. It could be way down here, okay? We know that it's going to cross at negative 6, but it's going to be a little bit further over here, your vertex. It's just going to be a sketch. Yeah, just sketch it knowing which way it opens. Freehand it. Now, remember, if I say that x squared plus x minus 6 is less than or equal to 0, this is telling me what kind of answers do I want for my y. I want y's to be negative. Where does your graph show negative y's? Where is the parabola showing negative y's? You tell me. If I go out this way, what y values do I get? This is positive y. If I go to the left of this 0, I have to go up to get to my graph, right? Isn't that positive y's? But anything in here between these zeros, if I go down to get to my graph, will give me negative y's. Therefore, I'm looking at all the values in between the zeros. What are my x values that will give me negative y values between those two zeros? So I get the same answer, that x falls between and includes 2 and negative 3.
Okay, question. Why didn't you just color the x-axis?
Because that's the area where my answer will fall. If I had wanted greater than, I'd be going from here out and from here left. Yes. Sure. Because what happens if my parabola had opened down? Sorry. No, if my parabola had opened negatively, and I still wanted to have less than or equal to 0, where is my graph going to be negative now? Here and here. It'd be or statements. I don't want the x values in between that. I want them going out. Because to go out goes me down to get to my graph, which is negative. And to go right gives me down to go negative. Because I'm looking for negative values. How do I get my negative values are my y values. My y values fall along this axis that are negative. So if I go left, how do I get to my graph to get to the rest of my y's? Down. Mm-hmm. If I would have gone up, I wouldn't have gotten to my parabola. Okay? Yes, Emily? Yeah. And then you write the inequality statement. Okay, algebraically, it's the same thing. It's just using a number line. So -3, +2 are my zeros. I'm literally going to dot this in solid and solid because of the inequality having the equal sign. And then you do your cases again. You do your cases. Let x equal 0. Let x equal -4. Let x equal 3. At 0, we got y is -6, right? At -4 up here, we got that y was +6. And at 3, we got y is equal to 6. This is the only place that gets us the negative value. So we want in between. And we write again. So I know what these values are, Haley, because of doing it up here. That's why I'm saying the chart and the algebraic are very similar in how they do it. So when x was 0, I got -6. When x was -4, I got +6. And when x was 3, I got +6. Okay? And remember, this inequality said that my answers had to be negative. Right? And the only way I got a negative value was when x was 0, which tells me I have to stay in between my two zeros. And so I get x falls between and includes 2 and -3. Okay? So you get to try it on your own. They will give you parts where you do algebraically. They will give you parts where you do graphically, and give you problems where they do it chart-wise. So no matter which method you use, the first thing you have to do is find your zeros through factoring or the quadratic formula now, right? Or the box. You could complete the square, but unless you love it, I wouldn't suggest it. Okay? Yes, absolutely. Okay. Because I hate things that aren't factorable. So if you're work this problem. I'm going to work it. Work it good.